was supposed to be a discovery that changed the course of the Galactic War. A mysterious, unlabeled artifact unearthed from the deepest vaults of a ruined Sith temple, radiating a temporal anomaly that the Archive's primitive tech sensors classified as a dire warning from a dark, alternative future. Believing they were about to witness a crucial prophecy or a vision of the Republic's ultimate downfall, the 12 members of the Jedi High Council gathered in solemn silence, dimming the chamber lights to receive the cosmic transmission. But within 90 seconds of the holocron igniting, any hope of gaining spiritual insight evaporated into the sterile air. Faced with an incomprehensible, multi-hour assault on the senses, the galaxy's most revered peacekeepers completely abandoned their connection to the living force, bypassed the dark side entirely, and instinctively defaulted into becoming an incredibly pedantic, profoundly miserable panel of amateur film critics. The council sits in silence as Malla, Lumpy, and Itchy roar at each other with no subtitles. The high-backed chairs of the Jedi Temple have never felt less dignified. Mace Windu lasts 40 seconds. His jaw clenches so hard, a tiny pop echoes through the chamber. Why is this just Wookiee noises? Who the fuck knows Wookiee? Yoda slowly turns, his gnarled hands resting placidly on his Geimer stick. Good relations with the Wookiees I have. Anakin leans forward, a dangerous knowing smirk spreading across his face. Master, we all know of the tales of your youth in the bars of Kushik. The entire council looks at Yoda. 12 pairs of eyes, ranging from human to Keldor, fixate on the Grand Master. Yoda does not deny it. Good relations indeed. Obi-Wan clears his throat, desperately trying to pull a thread of diplomatic decorum out of the escalating madness. Perhaps this is a culturally significant family observance, a ritual of domestic communication. On screen, Itchy growls directly into the camera lens for another full minute, exposing an alarming amount of dental work. Obi-Wan's diplomatic smile falters, though I admit the pacing is hostile. Ki-Adi-Mundi immediately adjusts his posture, treating the painful lack of editing like a profound sociological text. The lack of translation suggests either a daring artistic intent to isolate the viewer, or complete narrative collapse. Mace rubs his temples, his voice dripping with pure exhaustion. It is collapse. When Han Solo finally appears on the projection, Anakin immediately perks up. He sits flat in his chair, his mechanical hand gripping the armrest. Finally, there is a human being doing recognizable normal activity. Han is frantically dodging Imperial patrols, Chewie is visibly stressed, and for a fleeting, beautiful moment, there is almost a plot. Obi-Wan lets out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Smuggling under intense scrutiny. High stakes, structural tension. That feels coherent. Mace does not lean back. He points a rigid finger at the hologram. If the story is about them, why did they hide it inside the Bear apartment for 45 minutes? Plo Koon is the only one who seems emotionally invested, his masked face tilted with genuine empathy. He simply wishes to return to his family for their holy day. That is honorable. A warrior prioritizing his kin. Anakin nods aggressively. Finally, stakes, movement, a ship, a reason to keep watching this disaster. Then without warning, the special cuts away again to a cartoon of a giant creature eating a tree. Anakin stands up. He doesn't say anything. He just stands there, staring at the wall. The council watches Chewbacca's elderly father sit down, strap himself into a glowing private electronic device, and receive a virtual reality program. The room becomes spiritually unsafe within 3 seconds. Diahan Carroll appears in a cloud of pink mist, singing seductively to an elderly Wookiee. Obi-Wan immediately looks away, staring directly at the floor between his boots. I believe this portion of the transmission should have remained private, for everyone's sake. Shakti shields her eyes. There is a child in the house. Lumpy is in the next room. Plo Koon says nothing, but his breathing apparatus somehow emits a long, deeply disappointed hiss that sounds like a deflating tire. Mace is absolutely furious, his voice rising to a dangerous register. Why are we watching Chewbacca's grandfather enter a pleasure trance? Who authorized this? Where are the authorities? Anakin, unfortunately, cannot stop watching because he is horrified in the exact specific way a 22-year-old would be horrified by finding their elder's hidden stash. This is worse than the dark side. Palpatine never showed me anything this twisted. Ki-Adi-Mundi rubs his long chin. It raises severe questions about Wookiee elder care and the psychological impact of isolation on Kashyyyk. Mace cuts him off with a slice of his hand. No, it does not. We are moving on. If anyone speaks of the fantasy machine again, they are expelled from the Order. As he eyes Anakin, hoping he does. Now the Council is forced to watch an Imperial officer get completely distracted from his military duties by a holographic, psychedelic rock performance featuring a lead singer with a glowing microphone. Saisi Tien, who has been completely silent almost the entire morning, finally speaks, his voice deep and rumbling. This is a weapon. Mace agrees instantly, his eyes locked on the pink hair of the musicians. Correct. Obi-Wan blinks. A psychological weapon designed to pacify the Imperial ranks? Mace says, a war crime. I would rather listen to a sonic mine. Anakin is deeply offended on behalf of the galactic community. The Empire apparently conquers the entire civilized galaxy, builds a Death Star, and they still have worse entertainment than mid-rim pod racing commercials? Why does anyone serve them? Kit Fisto is quietly tapping his webbed fingers along to the baseline on the arm of his chair. Mace notices. He glares across the circle. Master Fisto! Kit stops smiling, locking his hands together. Apologies. The rhythm resonated briefly in the Force. Yoda opens one eye. Catchy, it is. A bop, the youth call it. Mace closes his eyes tightly, breathing in through his nose like he is actively trying not to resign from the Jedi Order right then and there. Then the animated segment starts, and for the first time in 2 hours, the Council collectively understands what is happening. There is an actual mission. There is palpable danger. Luke Skywalker is present. Han is present. The droids are operating within normal parameters. Suddenly, Boba Fett appears on a giant beast, wielding a twin-pronged fork. Anakin freezes, staring at the stylized animation. Who is the blonde kid? He looks familiar? Obi-Wan looks out the viewport at the Coruscant traffic lanes. Many beings in the galaxy have blonde hair, Anakin. It is a common genetic trait in the mid-rim. Mace focuses entirely on the bounty hunter. That armored one is trouble. Look at his posture. He moves like a man who collects heads. Plo Koon nods. He presents himself as an ally while concealing hostile intent. A classic Mandalorian deception. Ki-Adi-Mundi lets out a sigh of relief. At last, dramatic structure, linear progression, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Kit Fisto says the animation style makes everyone look like they are melting or undergoing severe biological mutation, but I am awake. My eyes are open. Yoda nods with grave satisfaction. Best part of this ordeal, this is. Mace says, that is not praise, Master Yoda. That is survival talking. The scene transitions back to the treehouse. Lumpy watches a repair program featuring a malfunctioning instructional figure who can barely keep his own head attached. The Council tries to follow the technical explanation of how to build a transmitter. Nobody can. The vocabulary is completely nonsensical. Ajan Kohler shakes his head. This child is being trained in advanced mechanics by a broken appliance. This is educational negligence. Anakin is personally deeply offended as a master mechanic. He slams both hands on the armrests. No, absolutely not. This is insulting. Give me the tools. Give me 20 minutes and I'll build the transmitter myself. What is he doing with that hydro spanner? He's going to short the entire grid. Obi-Wan raises a soothing hand. Anakin, calm yourself. The child is fictional. It is a recorded broadcast. Anakin points a trembling finger at the projection. That child is going to cause an electrical fire and die in that giant tree if he listens to this mechanical heresy. Mace looks over at him, his voice flat. The fictional Wookiee boy has more patience than half this council. Yoda looks directly at Anakin, a small, knowing glint in his eye. Anakin slumps back into his chair, crossing his arms. I know that was about me. Yoda smiles, offering no further comment. Good relations, indeed. The scene shifts to the infamous Mos Eisley cantina, where a woman named Akmina runs the room with more absolute authority than half the Galactic Senate. The council is thoroughly confused, but weirdly, everyone feels their anger dissipating. Obi-Wan leans forward, genuinely impressed by her negotiation tactics with a giant rat creature. This woman has tremendous command presence. Look how she handles the local criminal element without a lightsaber. Mace nods slowly, his respect earned. She should be in charge of the Republic. If she were Chancellor, the Separatist crisis would have been resolved in a weekend. Kit Fisto is fully back in, grinning from ear to ear. She has the room. She started singing to them to make them leave, and you must admit, the patrons respected the closing time. Even Anakin respects it. She told an entire bar of bloodthirsty mercenaries to drink up and get out, and they actually listened. The Senate could never agree on a recess that fast. Yoda nods in deep thought. Strong in the Force, she may be. A hidden master on Tatooine, perhaps? Mace says, Do not recruit the cantina woman, Yoda. We are not bringing her to the temple. Yoda says nothing, but his ears twitch slightly, which means Yoda is actively considering sending an acquisition team to Tatooine. The Imperial forces finally arrive at the treehouse, and the Council instantly becomes alert because there are actual, tangible stakes. Mace leans forward, his eyes sharp. Finally, military oppression. Search authority without a warrant. Abuse of localized power. Something recognizable. Something I can file a report on. Obi-Wan frowns, watching the stormtroopers tear apart a child's bedroom. The family is being forced to perform normalcy under extreme totalitarian surveillance. It is tragic. Plo Koon's hands tighten into fists inside his sleeves, his voice dropping an octave. This is what occupation looks like inside a home. The true face of the enemy. Anakin watches Lumpy hide on the balcony from a towering stormtrooper, and his entire demeanor gets incredibly tense. His thoughts stray to the children of the Outer Rim. He's just a kid. That part actually lands with him. The anger in his eyes is real now. Then Han Solo shows up out of nowhere, grabs the stormtrooper, and knocks him completely off the high platform to his death. Anakin immediately pumps his fist. Yes, ha! That was efficient. Mace looks across at him, his brow furrowed. Skywalker, that was cold-blooded murder. The trooper was off balance. Anakin fires back. That was a tactical elimination of an occupying force threatening a civilian minor. It was efficient. Obi-Wan sighs, rubbing the bridge of his nose. It was undeniably both. The segment shifts. The Wookiees are suddenly wearing bright red velvet robes, walking through a glowing, incomprehensible cosmic void toward a massive, glowing tree ceremony. The Council has absolutely no idea what religious or galactic jurisdiction they are looking at anymore. Ki-Adi-Mundi looks left and right, his binary brain overwhelmed. Is Life Day a civic holiday, a spiritual observance, or a family ritual? The astrophysics of this glowing spaceplane are completely unexplained. Mace says, It is evidence. Shakti looks over. Of what, Master Windu? Mace says, I do not know yet, but when I find out, arrests will be made. Yoda is the only one treating the screen with deep, solemn respect. Sacred to them this may be. The binding nature of life they celebrate. Honor it. We must. Anakin whispers loudly to Obi-Wan, Are we allowed to leave? Is the session over? Obi-Wan whispers back without moving his lips. I believe we lost our constitutional right to leave when the grandfather's fantasy machine appeared. Anakin, we must bear witness to the end. Princess Leia steps forward on the glowing platform and starts singing a song about freedom and light over the traditional Star Wars theme music. The Jedi Council enters a state of total, catastrophic psychological shutdown. Anakin stares intently at Leia on the screen, then flashes back to the blonde kid from the cartoon memory, then glares directly at Obi-Wan. Why do those two feel so incredibly important to me? Why is the Force screaming right now? Obi-Wan stares straight ahead, his eyes completely glassy. The Force is mysterious, Anakin, a repository of random cosmic coincidences. Mace snaps. That answer has covered far too many crimes in this room, Kenobi. On-screen, Leia continues hitting high notes while the Wookiees bow. Plo Koon tries to find a shred of kindness in his heart. She has courage to sing in front of a species that can rip her arms out of their sockets. Mace says she's been completely abandoned by the arrangement. The band has given up behind her. Kit Fisto says the song is technically not the worst thing we have seen today. Everyone in the room knows he is completely right, and that realization makes the entire experience so much worse. When the holomessage finally fades to black, nobody speaks for a very long time. The silence in the Jedi Council chamber stretches for a full 2 minutes. The air is heavy with collective regret. Then Mace Windu stands up, adjusting his heavy robes with aggressive finality. This transmission is to be permanently sealed in the most restricted vaults of the Jedi archives. Ki-Adi-Mundi looks up. For future historical study? Mace says, for biological containment. If the Senate sees this, the Republic will dissolve out of sheer embarrassment. Yoda nods gravely, his ears drooping lower than usual. Dangerous knowledge this is. Destructive to the sanity of a Padawan. Anakin stands up next, his face pale, staring at his mechanical hand. I think this is why I fall to the dark side. I can feel it. Obi-Wan looks completely exhausted, his voice a faint plea. Anakin, please. No, Master. Think about it, Anakin says, gesturing wildly at the blank projector. I just watched Chewbacca's grandpa use a virtual pleasure chair in the living room, a four-armed cooking show tried to induce a seizure in me, and Princess Organa just sang us into a cosmic cult ceremony. The dark side is making some incredibly strong points today. At least the Sith have production value. Mace points a rigid finger directly at his face. Denied, Skywalker? Sit down. Yoda taps his cane on the floor. Agree with Skywalker's dramatic turn? I do not. But profoundly troubled, we all are. Cleanse my mind in a sensory deprivation tank, I must. Just then, Anakin's comlink beeps. He pulls it up. It's an urgent message from the Chancellor's office. Palpatine is inviting him to a private box at the Galaxy's Opera House to move the plot ahead. Anakin looks at the comlink, then looks back at the traumatized Jedi Council, who are all currently staring into space or rubbing their temples in silence. Anakin turns and walks out of the room without asking for permission. He goes gladly, mostly because he assumes that absolutely nothing Palpatine could say at the opera could possibly be worse than what he just watched in the holy sanctuary of the Jedi Order.